day of big feelings, but it's more and bigger feelings, at least for me than I expected. But we're here together. Throughout Sukkot, actually since the last time I saw everyone here, this past Shabbat morning, I've seen the Minyaneres a couple times since then, but throughout Sukkot, what I've heard over and over again from a variety of different people, like there's no pattern to it, or maybe there is, what I heard was looking at me saying, "You must be so exhausted." And I'm thinking to myself, like, do I look terrible? Am I complaining a lot? Like, what's going on here? But as I continued to hear things like this, I realized apparently I'm in good company. I heard that Rabbi so-and-so has laryngitis, and I also heard, and this is the comment that really got me thinking, have you seen the rabbis at Shul XYZ? They're running around, they look like they shouldn't even be driving. There's something about that comment that made me really start to think. But first, there's this idea, and maybe some of you have heard about it, maybe all of you have heard about it, this idea of rabbi as symbolic exemplar. There was a book with that title that got the idea out there for at least me and my colleagues, and maybe for more people than that, the idea that a rabbi is not just a teacher, but also a special kind of role model. And I'm thinking, that's kind of cool. I like being able to give that to people because I've received so much from what all my rabbis have given to me. Now, the thing is that, of course, rabbis are just regular humans, but also we're regular Jews. Being a rabbi is not like being a Kohen or a Levi who has a special status that not everyone can have, but still, this symbolic exemplar thing, it's definitely a thing. And I feel like when we're talking about how our rabbis are exhausted, we're reflecting within ourselves a part of us that feels exhausted. I mean, maybe I just prefer to believe that I look better than I do, but I feel like there is a part of us that's exhausted. And, I wrote this just yesterday, but in this moment, I'm realizing how all of us are exhausted by the past year. And what started last year on Shemini Atzeret, October 7th, isn't over yet, and that makes the exhaustion all the more. Now, I haven't talked about that so much since October 7th. I haven't talked that much about that during Sukkot, but my favorite conversation this year about the stress and strain of the holidays was actually a conversation where someone was like, it was the Sunday after the 3 days of Yom Tov and Shabbat, and this person was saying, I have to make sure I do laundry so I have enough clean clothes. And it turns out it's not really that easy to go 3 days without laundry sometimes if you don't plan for it first. I kind of figured that out about grocery shopping a number of years ago, but this year was like the first year that I was like, I don't think I planned this laundry thing right. So it was nice to know I was in good company. But back to this comment that really got me thinking, have you seen the rabbis at Shul XYZ? They're running around crazy. They look like they shouldn't even be driving. So I heard this comment on the same day when I ended up at a sukkah where there were lots of kids, and the kids were all playing together as a group. And so, anyone who's seen kids playing together as a group, you know how this goes. There's kind of like people arrive, there's the gentle warm up, and then things kind of start to heat up, and then the fun is reigning supreme. The game is in full swing. People are finding new hiding places for tag. The soccer ball comes out, et cetera, et cetera. And then, to quote one of the parents who was there for this, it's starting to get manic. It's like the kids are having a good time, but the grown-ups know that we're crossing the threshold from fun to, whoa, watch out. A window's going to get broken, someone's going to slip and fall, and the grown-ups are like, okay, it's time to get home before anything happens, right? And this idea, or this experience rather, that fun leads to overwhelm, that peak experiences lead to overwhelm. It happens to all ages. It's only human. And so for us grown-ups in the past few weeks, we had Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. They're physically demanding. We've got to shop, we've got to do the laundry, we've got to do the praying, we've got to do the eating, then we've got to do the fasting. And they're spiritually exhilarating. They culminate in this experience of complete forgiveness. And so when we get to Sukkot, we're running around like the kids when it starts to get manic. It's like the rabbis and cantors, we're leading the charge. So if you've been to any Hoshana Rabbah services, or if you happen to be here for a Hoshana Rabbah service yesterday, you can kind of see the rabbi's vision of how this is evident, the rabbi's vision of what happens when it gets manic. So Hoshana Rabbah is a 2-hour service. It's a real mix of weekday, Shabbat, high holidays, and Sukkot. And it culminates in 7 hakafot around the sanctuary with a lulav and etrog. All the other days of Sukkot have just 1 hakafah. And it peaks with the beating of the aravot on the floor. We actually take plants and we smash them on the floor. Now, the tradition is we do that exactly 5 times because there's a lot of emotion that comes up. It can get out of hand if you don't have a limit on the fun. But in the flow of the month of Tishrei, these unusual seeming rituals, this manic moment, it makes perfect sense. It's that last hurrah that gets us all out of our system. All of these holidays, starting in Rosh Hashanah through Sukkot, get us ready for today's holiday, Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, our 8th day of ingathering, our concluding celebration. The holiday we're celebrating today has really always been a mix of feelings. It's the holiday to celebrate the end of holidays, and so that's kind of sad. But it's the holiday where we end and begin our Torah reading cycle, starting with that amazing Parashat Bereshit, so it's a great celebration. It's the holiday where we sing and dance, and some of us enjoy some adult beverages, and we really shouldn't be driving. It's fun. And it's the holiday where we say Yizkor, and remember our loved ones we have lost, and so it's wistful, it's even mournful. Now, in the diaspora, outside Israel, we have 2 days of Yom Tov. We say Yizkor on the first day, and we dance on the second day. So it seems to separate the sadness and joy, and in a way it makes more sense. But in Israel, and I don't know if any of us, I know I have, but I don't know if any of us have celebrated Simchat Torah, Shemini Atzeret in Israel, it's very different. The dancing and the mourning take place on the very same day. People dance in the evening, then they go home for dinner, then they come back to shul, they say Yizkor, and then they dance some more. And this was even true before last year, before Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah 5784. So after October 7th, after Shemini Atzeret last year, I went to Israel in December with the Rabbinical Assembly, and I've talked about this many times. I met a rabbi named Yosef Baruch Fromer, and he's the rabbi of Kehilat Magen Avraham in Omer, and Omer is about a half-hour's drive from Sderot, and Sderot, of course, is right next to Gaza. We met with him, and he told us the story of his community on October 7th, and it was without question the most emotional and difficult thing that we did on that trip. This year, he wrote a reflection on his experience last year and what the holiday means for him this year. And this is what he writes. We did not complete the Torah reading cycle of 5783. That circle remains incomplete, its ends frayed. I hope that this year we will have Simchat Torah. Our children and our young people deserve for us to try to create joy this year, even if we come to synagogue with broken hearts. Our children deserve our granting them memories of rejoicing on Simchat Torah. And that's what we here at Adat Shalom are holding in our hearts last year as we completed that Torah reading cycle of 5783. It was Shabbat morning when we were all kind of finding out, and by the time we came back to synagogue in the evening, our hearts were broken, and we granted our children memories of rejoicing. Rabbi Jacob Blumenthal, one of the trip leaders of our Israel trip that I was speaking about last December with the Rabbinical Assembly, he wrote this year, I encourage you to make We Will Dance Again the theme of your Simchat Torah observance. It acknowledges our current struggles and sorrows and also affirms our unwavering belief in the future. So in our Adat Shalom community, tonight and tomorrow morning, we will take up this theme and we'll add a specific intention, a specific kavanah to our community's observance. We will dedicate our 7th hakafah, our 7th and final round of dancing with the Torah, to this theme, We Will Dance Again. Tonight and tomorrow morning, we will dance for those who are not alive to dance this year. We will dance for all our sister communities in Israel who did not dance on last year's Simchat Torah, who did not complete last year's Torah reading. And we will dance for our Jewish future, affirming our unwavering belief. We learn from our tradition that when we dance, we can feel more than just happiness, and then when we mourn, we can feel more than just sadness. There's room in our hearts for all of it. In the words of Rabbi Jacob Blumenthal, may this Simchat Torah bring comfort to those who mourn, strength to those who are waiting, and hope to us all. Tonight, in just a few hours, in our Adat Shalom social hall, we will dance again. Chag Sameach.